Hi, welcome to Guitar Time. Robert Knoll. Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about some practice techniques. It's a pretty vast subject because I really believe that practice techniques are different for every student, every person that's learning whatever you're trying to learn. In this case, we're talking about guitar. Being a musician, learning music theory, learning to train our ear to hear better, learning the skills, getting the dexterity we need in our fingers, the techniques, learning about intervals and arpeggios and scales and chords and how that trilogy of chord, scale, arpeggio go together. So there's a lot of methods of learning. How do you use your time, your practice time? Is it an hour, a half hour? Do you only have 15 minutes in the morning? Can you split your times up? Half hour here, half hour later, half hour at night, an hour in the morning, an hour at night. There's a lot of different timings. Life is complicated, and we have to work it into sometimes that we have an occupation and we have a family or we have other things going on. So it's complicated. You have to work in a time that you practice every day, just like you take care of your personal self, just like you go to the bathroom or have your breakfast or normal things, that activities that you do. If you really want to learn to play this instrument really well, you have to practice learning how to practice. It involves psychology. So the neuroscience, the way that the mind learns, the way that we learn, is different with everybody. But we have to be able to analyze our practice skills to ask yourself, is the way that I'm practicing this particular thing, is this benefiting me? Now, in guitar, of course, with riffs and scales and chords, repetitions are really important. The more repetitions you do, but they have to be mindful repetitions that you're trying to hone in and tweak in your skills. I love that word, tweak. Practice is about tweaking things in, getting them better, learning the technique, learning to own the technique or own the skill. It's about developing your ear to hear better and to analyze better. So you have to be able to analyze your time that you put into it. What am I just wasting time doing one little thing for 10 minutes, or am I doing it mindful and trying to work out the issues that I have? Maybe they're in the left hand, or maybe they're in the right hand. Maybe they're in the combination of getting both to work together. It's really about analyzing, where are my issues? So I always say with scales and such, usually slowing down, going very, very slow, even ultimately really slow with working with a new chord. It might be learning to switch chords slowly and get faster at chords where the fingers happen fast. But it's also about, when you learn chords, the skill of the finger placement in guitar. Of course, I always like my students to hug the frets, keep fingers in positions, and to use the tip portions of fingers. So I have these rules that I like my students to learn. I would say about chords, though, it's always about coming down all at one time in the right place. Learning your fingers to see these shapes and patterns and understand the patterns eventually as intervals, okay, and what they are. Triads, maybe they're inversions, okay? So being able to lift your fingers just a little off the strings and then put them right down where they should be is a really excellent thing to do. Bring the fingers off. You've got your fingers hugging the frets. Bring them just a little off. Put them back down. And that's a good way, I think, to practice certain chords, is to do just a little off. And that could be the same for your triads, doing the same thing, lifting up and down. And then with chords, it's not just getting a good sound on a down strum, a down up strum, brushing the right amount of strings. You might even want to go into arpeggiating. And you want to get your arpeggio. Here's a triad, a C triad, C minor triad. I'm increasing the speed, but I'll get to a speed to where I start having glitches, and I'm going to have to work on that. Maybe I have to slow down again and build up to that. It's about quality. You want to be able to practice until you are consistent with the chord, the scale, the riff, the rhythm. Not only consistent, but accurate. And in guitar playing, it has to also look correct. So there's all of these things that we're bringing to the table with practice. Sometimes you can work on something and you get tired and you go, well, hey, take a break, get up, go walk around, go do something, and then come back. But as long as you keep coming back to it and reworking it and finding another way to practice it sometimes and doing the repetitions, but not doing the repetitions wrong. You got to make sure that your right and left hands are right and your thinking's right. Sometimes when you're at a point to practicing, it's good to sit and meditate. And meditating, I think, is a big part of feeling good about your practice and absorbing what you're doing psychologically and physically on the guitar. To stop and, in your mind's eye, see the chord, see the fingering, see and hear the riff and the intervals, see the rhythm and the strumming, the arpeggio. If you close your eyes and you get into this scene in your mind's eye, I think that's a really great way to practice. I associate colors, I associate smells, I associate literature, art, all of these things with playing. What picture am I painting, what is the coloration of the chord? Where's my pick strumming? What flavors am I using? What hues of color am I designing? What textures am I using when I'm doing something? So there's a whole lot to the whole art. The art of being a musician, musicianship, music theory, learning to get our ear going. Sometimes that might mean singing the scale, singing the arpeggio, singing the triads. Talking the rhythms is always so important. Counting the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then 1D and a 2D and a 3D and a 4D and a, being able to count those and understand those beats. So, you do it with iReal or metronome or whatever, and then you learn to do it without. And there's strictness to timing, strictness to counting. And then we learn to do other things with it. Eventually, you learn to work dynamics of your playing in all ways. And sometimes we don't want to be absolutely perfect sometimes. And this is a whole nother art. Once you're really good, then it's learning, how can I do something ungood? It sounds crazy, but sometimes playing something too nice too shiny and too great. It might just need a little ism, a little bit of virus in there or something, to make it right. There's a whole lot of ways to think about it, but that's what makes music and learning so interesting. And I'm hoping that you start getting into analyzing your practicing for whatever time you have and finding a way, being inventive on how you can be consistent with the practice time. I always say to students, you got to do something every day. A half hour a day practice is not very much. That's just a quick review of things. If you spend an hour a day, then you're probably going to see more improvements. But how much time do I spend on, maybe it's note learning, maybe it's reading music, maybe it's rhythms, maybe it's technical skills, finger picking with the right hand, different picking styles, left hand finger placement. How much time do we spend on that every day? How much time do you spend on the exercises that you might be working on? Then how about the songs? Songs of the past that you want to make better. New songs that you're working on. So there's so much there. Maybe the weekends are the marathon sessions. Maybe a little more time opens up. Maybe you have that couple hour slot on Saturday or Sunday or both days where you have that extra time. Maybe the family goes out and the kids are gone, and hey, you get a whole evening to really work on your guitar, Wow. So we have to be inventive. We have to be creative with how we practice. It's a key word, be creative. Be creative with analyzing what you're doing, your skills, where you're at and where you want to be. What do I want to attain with my rhythms, with my scales, and my understanding of the guitar and the geometry of the fretboard, and how that's going to help me once I learn that, to learn from other guitar players, or by watching other guitar players, or by listening to songs. Knowing my fretboard really well is going to be a great thing. And if you get deeper into the theory of it, well, then you just might be able to take riffs and ideas from other people and work with them and go, oh, hey, that's great. I can do it just like them. But what if I want to now be inventive and I want to phrase it different? Remember that word, phrasing. Such an important word. I'm going to phrase it myself. I'm going to do my own way of phrasing. And I'm going to change a couple things here. And then you're creating your own riff. You're creating maybe your own style. So it's just wonderful that we have all these things to work on. But it's up to you to find time. I've seen it with a lot of students that they maybe practice on a regular routine for a while, and then something happens, and maybe it's an emergency in the family, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's you get lazy, and you skip a day, skip 2 days, 3 days. Maybe a week falls apart. Well, that's not good. You can't let that happen. That's like the attack of the guitar virus. You don't want that laziness to happen. You want to try to, like I said, make guitar and you're learning music and learning the guitar part of every day. It's just something you do every day. Just like the regular things you do. Think about the things you do every day. Every day you do certain things. You have to work guitar in somehow. I like when students say they do it in the morning before they go to work or before they do anything. They spend maybe a half hour before they go out the door, or an hour. Then they go about their day. Some people are able to keep a guitar at the office and spend lunch maybe playing sometimes. Maybe. Possible. Or when they don't have a client, they can close the office door and tell the secretary they don't want to be disturbed, and you can practice in your office. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's a possibility. Maybe when you get home and you unwind and settle down, maybe there's time before dinner. Before, if you're on a regular other timings with your family or whatever your circumstance, or maybe it's before you go to bed. You always have that hour. If your bedtime's 10 o'clock, well, from 9 to 10, I'm always practicing. And then I get up in the morning, and after I've gotten woken up and before I go out the door, I spend half hour. You get on a routine like that, and you're going to really see a lot of improvement in your playing. It is how much time you spend, but it's the quality of the time, the quality of the practicing. If you're just meandering around and dallying around, lollygagging on the guitar, there's one of my favorite words. If you lollygag, it's just you're doing nothing. And some guys, gals, play guitar and they lollygag forever, and they never go anywhere with it. The guitar just sits around and pick it up and do nothing with it for years and years and years and a lifetime. But if you can get out of these mental things and get guitar as part of your life, make it music and guitar playing part of your life. I want to really learn how to play these songs. You get your list going. I really like these musicians, these guitar players, these bands. I love these recordings. Make your lists. Present me your list. Let me see who you really like, what bands you like, what songs you really love. And we can start heading in those directions eventually. As your skills get better and your understanding and your technique gets better, we can start heading to those areas that are important to you. That's about attaining your goals. And that's what I want to do as your teacher. It's really important. So I hope some of this lecture has been good for you. I love the words like phrasing, but I also love words about your practice routine. And my students know I use these words quite often when we're working and I'm teaching, that let's do this chord progression, or let's play this song and let me hear you jam. I want to hear you go on a adventure. Well, an adventure. Well, that's maybe you're soloing and you're looking for ideas. You're doing things. You're on an adventure to see what discoveries you can make. Wow. Adventures, discoveries. How about this word? This practice session, or for the next 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to go on a musical journey with my guitar. I'm going to jam to this jam track or iReel or whatever, and I'm going to go on a journey. I'm going to see what I can discover. An adventure. I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to make it look at the things that I can learn. Maybe I've used this word too. We're going on a safari. A musical safari with your guitar. Me, you, my guitar, and you and your guitar. We're going on a safari. What are we doing? We're looking at things. We're looking at the environment that we're in, the musical environment. Keyword, musical environment. What do our skills? What do we have? If we see something interesting, can we stop and watch it and observe it and look at it and then get into it and then carry on, get back on the safari to the next discovery, to the next, and we go on adventures. Maybe we're into some really galactic cosmic music. Well, we're going on a journey to the stars, Or maybe it's into some kind of funkiness that we're going on a journey, a discovery mission. Oh, I love that word, mission. Of course, my band was Blues Mission. I love the word mission. Going on missions. How about a musical mission? How about you going on a guitar mission and getting excited about it? The meditating. Don't forget the meditating. It's something you can learn, and it's different for everybody. But I'm going to do more videos on talking about some of these subjects in the future. I hope that this one you listen to, play it back and back, and you'll get some ideas about how to be better at practicing, better at analyzing and learning how to learn. right? Learning how to learn.